washed-up bass, Professor 6 Million, and I sat in with him one day and we ended up becoming a team. We played on the streets of Harlem, mostly 125th, about a block from the Apollo Theater, for about 4 years, through a really rough time in American history and New York history. You might have heard of Howard Beach, you might have heard the name Yusef Hawkins and Bensonhurst. If you know the history of the problematics of race in America, then you've heard of those things. And they were all on the streets in that time period, and he was making a space for me and him, the two of us, to be a team out there doing what we did, holding down the space that we held down. I just want to say that is part of what he's about. Now, many years later, an old white man came up to me at a club somewhere and he said, I played with Sterling when I was a boy. I said, when I was a young man. I said, really? He goes, Sterling brought me and the bass player. He goes, I played drums. He brought me and the bass player into a black club in St. Petersburg in the mid-'60s. He goes, that was a very unusual thing to do. This was still a Jim Crow place. He goes, that's who Sterling was. And that helped me understand that Sterling making a space for me 2 decades later was sort of just in his, I don't want to say in his DNA, just in his spirit. It's who he was, which was to try to create a big space for everybody and to try to make peace. I never saw him hit anybody ever. I saw him hold people so they couldn't hit him. He was a peacemaker. And so when we think about what's the meaning of Sterling McGee and trying to remember him, I can only think he was a brilliant musician, but he was also a really, really great spirit, a great prophet. He's the kind of spirit that we need, and we're trying to keep a little bit of that alive on this stage. And Rod is a huge part of that. Rod, Sterling's nephew, who was, lived in a house with him for a couple of years when he was just become Mr. Satan. That's a whole long story, the Mr. Satan thing. So I would not be sitting here doing what I'm doing if I hadn't spent all those years next to a man doing far more than I'm doing here. I mean, he was just in a rhythm machine. And I'd encourage you to go and just go on YouTube and put in Satan and Adam and put in Harlem Blues and find that album, which is out there. I mean, we're trying to sort of keep that spirit alive.
Go watch Rattle and Hum.
By the way, the homemade instrument thing is a part of what Sterling did. I made some of this stuff down here, the sideways mounted snare. Alan makes his own guitars. How about a hand for the homemade guitar? All right. Grosscasters.com. Anyway, enough of my preaching. We love you, Mr. Sterling, Mr. Satan, Sterling. We remember.
Tumble after the whole night long. I tumble after the whole night long. Why don't you say you do that? Why don't you say you do that? baby, sit on daddy's knee. Everybody, what they done to me. I wasn't having up. I wasn't having up. To my head. Hear a train coming around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm starting to go from prison. Time keeps moving on, but these trains keep on rolling right into San. When I was just big, my mama told me, son, always be a big boy, don't ever play with guns. But I got a man in Rio just to watch him die. I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head. I know there's rich folks eat fancy dining cars, probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. But I know I had it coming, I know I can't be free. But the keep on moving, and that's what it's told. Alright, now let's do some training. If they free me from this prison, this old train was mine. Probably moving on a little farther down the line. So some prison, that's where I want to stay. And I hear that whistle blowing every time I leave.
What?